It's the aftermath page. Also, it's an example of people making assumptions they shouldn't make, but maybe for good reason. Welcome back to Page by Toutatis, an overly thorough examination of Asterix, panel by panel, page by page, assumption by assumption. Today we're looking at the 8th page of Asterix Volume 7, Asterix and the Big Fight. If you're new, check the link above. There's a playlist that has all of the pages in order for you to catch up on today. Getafix met the Romans. Obelix ended the fight by squashing Getafix with a Menhir. It may not be the perfect way to end the fight, but it was quick, I'll give him that. Have you ever watched one of those sitcoms where two characters assume the wrong thing and hilarity occurs? Well, here we go with Asterix. Panel 1 starts with Felonius Caucus alerting Nebulous Nimbus that the troops are back. You can see from the clouds at the bottom of the panel that Nimbus is nervous. He's been circling the pole in his tent, probably for a long time, pacing around in anticipation of what his soldiers might do out in the forest to make him proud. Uderzo loves drawing those clouds, by the way, to indicate movement, and I am here for it. It's all part of the comics lexicon. Bring it on. And yes, Nebulous Nimbus is still shouting everything. Everything starts to fall apart, though, with the second panel. The Roman troops are happy to announce that they've accomplished their mission, but they've missed the single most important lesson that every comic book reader and soap opera viewer from the past 60 years knows all too well. We'll get to that soon, I promise. But just look at how beat up and tired the Romans look from what, in essence, was probably just them running back to camp, afraid of the Gauls. There was never any fight here. Certainly, Getafix didn't put up a big physical fight before Obelix and Asterix arrived. The time between the Romans and Getafix spotting each other and the time when Asterix and Obelix walk into the scene is nearly instantaneous. And once that Menhir is thrown, they scattered. There's no sign of the Roman soldiers in the last panel of the previous page. They saw what happened and were happy to get the heck out of there with their lives intact before that Menhir-throwing madman came after them. Even the recent Netflix series shows that event happening pretty quickly. It shows you an extra 3 seconds of the Druid fighting the soldiers off a little bit and the soldiers walking away with them, which, to be honest, the story needs in animation, but it's still a 3-second fight. I like how the only bit of their camouflage left here is just enough shrubbery to make it look like they're wearing skirts. If you're enjoying this series and you want to support it, I do have a Patreon account over at patreon.com/pipelinecomics. You can become a member there. You can get your name at the end of these videos as a producer, I guess I'm calling you. And you'll have access, of course, to various behind-the-scenes things I post there as well. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I thank you in advance for your support. Back to the video. Don't trust that a character is dead until you've seen their body, and not even then. It's something I've heard in the world of comics for decades. I always thought it came from one of the Marvel writers of the 1970s, so I did a little research now. It turns out it's actually a line from Frank Herbert's original Dune novel. Do not count a human dead until you've seen his body, and even then, you can make a mistake. Modern superhero comics have taken that to new heights these days, to the point where every dead character has come back to life at least once. Nothing is sacred anymore. There's a Gwen Stacy running around now, and a Bucky Barnes, and now they have a multiverse. So nobody is dead, and everybody has a dozen different versions of themselves, so everyone feels represented, and every toy maker has a complete line of SKUs to sell in their next wave of action figures. I can remember at least one soap opera, maybe it was One Life to Live, that had an entire summer storyline with a serial killer striking the entire summer and killing off numerous characters from the show, and then at the end it all turned out that the dead people, quote unquote, were actually just hidden away on an island and they all got off. And before we start bad-mouthing soap operas, let's just remember briefly that the greatest soap opera of all time is the ancient Romans. Those people were nuts. You want great stories of crazy families and wars and arguments and stabbings and betrayals? The ancient Romans. Just go study them. In the world of Asterix, with the cartoon physics it presents, it's even sillier to assume that a menhir could crush a man. But I guess if you live inside that world, I can also understand that it's harder to grasp that. Also, the Roman soldiers were incentivized to stretch the truth a little bit, mostly out of self-protection. They didn't want to have to go back into that forest. They didn't want to have to see the Gauls again. They just ran screaming from them in the first place. And so the soldiers' facade begins to fall immediately. Nimbus assumes that their glorious and decisive victory against the Gauls came at the tips of one of their Pilum. Their what? I admit it, I had to look this one up. I assumed it was one of their spears that they were carrying, and that was pretty much right. A Pilum is a long javelin-looking thing with a metal tip at the end, probably 3 to 4 feet long or so. Makes it easier to kill somebody from a slight distance, I suppose. Became a big part of the Roman military's cache of weapons, probably about 100 years before this story. This, of course, naturally led me down the rabbit hole of Roman history again because I am a man, and I think about the Roman Empire on a daily basis. I'm also 8 episodes into a projected 45-episode series discussing the Roman Empire's war on a village of indomitable Gauls, so occupational hazard, maybe? Some scholars credit Gaius Marius as the Roman general who brought the Pilum to great use in the Roman Empire. He did some kind of redesign on it, and then leaned hard into it to help win a few battles. Nowadays, the evidence for that is kind of thin, and that story was written centuries after the fact, so it's probably not entirely true. However, Gaius Marius, born 157 BC and died 86 BC, so about 36 years or so before this story, was an interesting fellow. He was consul 7 times, he was exiled to Africa at one point, he came back in yet another Roman civil war, won that bloody battle, became consul again, and then died within 2 weeks. Poor guy. Oh, and he married the aunt of Julius Caesar, so he's Uncle Gaius Marius to Asterix fans. Now, back to the comics. Reading the word Pilum in the British edition of Asterix made me curious about how the American version would translate that panel. Did they just have Nimbus say spear? That would probably be the easiest thing. But nope, they used Pilum also. But they did so with an asterisk, pun intended, and a definition at the bottom of the page. It really is the best part of the American editions of Asterix that they define specific terms like this one, or the various Latin phrases that Goscinny likes to toss off here and there. It's a genius move. It's always at the bottom of the page, or at the bottom of the panel, in between panels, wherever they can fit it in sometimes. But it saves people from having to go out to the internet to look things up, and I think that's a very good move. I read over the rest of the page in both the British and English translations, by the way. It's more the same than it is different. I was surprised by that a little bit, knowing that American translator Joe Johnson has said that he didn't read the British edition and wasn't trying to be faithful to it. It shows you in the end, though, how close Anthea Bell stuck to Rene Goscinny's original scripts. The differences are negligible, and Joe Johnson was obviously doing the same, so that's why a lot of this stuff ends up being very similar. Names require different puns. Obviously, French words that are puns don't necessarily pun the same way in English. American English versus British English, that's where the differences come into play. In any case, this is a funny panel. I love the excited and boisterous Nimbus next to the Roman soldier who clearly isn't as enthusiastic with the reality of his situation. Speaking of that conflict, check out the lead Roman soldier here across these 3 panels. He walks in confidently, an arm up in the air in what I think is an Ave Caesar kind of moment, chin up, back straight, quickly approaching the centurion. He looks physically a mess, but he knows that he's happy to report in with good news. In the second panel, when Nimbus loudly assumes they won at the tip of their spears, he does retreat a little bit. He looks much smaller. His chin is down, his hand is covering his mouth, his back is bent. His words are stammered out. He's definitely feeling a little defeated here. He wanted that glorious victory too, but now he's kind of faced with the truth, and it's up to him to decide which way to go. In the third panel, he doubles down. He recovers nicely, ready to sell his story. His chin is back up, his hand waves away any doubt. He's super confident in his body language here. It's all no worries and we got this, boss. He's selling his story with confidence here, and it works. And so in the final panel of this section, Nimbus happily walks away, and the soldier watches him leave back to his more nonplussed look. But Goscinny once again hangs a lantern on the preposterousness of this all. I hope you're right, but I sometimes wonder if those Gauls are human. The Centurion, as silly as he can be sometimes, isn't completely dumb. He kind of knows what's going on, but I think he wants to believe this as much as the Roman soldiers want to believe this as well. He goes ahead with his plan anyway, fully knowing that there's a chance that all of this is not exactly what it seems. And to be fair, it's not. Just not in the way Nimbus expects. The second half of the page is set in the village, where Obelix and Asterix carry Getafix home. Obelix is still underplaying what happened the way you'd expect him to. It'll be a bit of a running gag here. He just squished another human being with a Menhir, and he's busy trying to soft-pedal it. A little tap with a Menhir, he says in this panel. Nothing to speak of in the next. But it's also true that Obelix doesn't know his own strength, and honestly doesn't understand how much wear and tear the human body can take exactly. He's lived his whole life with the power of the magic potion coursing through his veins. That has to make it hard to relate to others, including an older man who just had a Menhir tossed on his head. I love this opening panel for the scene with Asterix and Obelix approaching the village. It is a great establishing shot. The trees perfectly frame the shot from either side. The place that Asterix and Obelix are walking towards and looking towards is the opening in the fence into the village. Just beyond, you can see the outlines of some houses inside there. The lack of details gives you the idea that it's further away. And there at the bottom of the panel, when you look carefully enough, there's Dogmatics keeping up, jauntily running at their side. In the second panel, we have the busyness of all the people gathered round. Chief Vital Statistics is there, looking concerned. That might be the back of Cacophonix's head, third from left at the bottom of the page there. The woman in purple isn't Mrs. Geriatrix. She doesn't have her first official appearance until Asterix and the Roman Agent. We're really early enough in the series that the usual gang of villagers isn't exactly perfectly established yet. While Fully Automatics has been there since the first book, Asterix the Gaul, Unhygienics didn't first appear until Asterix in Spain. We do see Geriatrix and Cacophonix on the next page from a different angle, so that's definitely them. This book is Impedimenta's first appearance, though she isn't given her name here yet, but I don't think we see her until page 13. I don't think she's in this group here. That kind of looks like her in the front holding a baby, but she and Vital Statistics I don't think have children, so that's not likely her. Otherwise, this is just a small gathering of big mustached generic villagers here. If anyone is slipping my mind here, please leave a comment below and let's work it out. Let's see if we can get names for all these people. I think they're just generic Gaul villagers that are showing up at this point. If I'm wrong, and I hope I am, it'd be cooler to find out who I'm missing here. I'll do an update in a future video. Let's get to the big moment at the bottom of the page now. It's a 3-panel sequence where Uderzo virtually locks down the camera and lets the moment play out, straight for the reader. Nothing too fancy here, just stretching what could be a single panel into 3 to make it funny. Because comedy is so much about the timing. Just like with Getafix finding the Romans on the previous page, this triumvirate of panels, if you will, works together in a funny way. It's all about the pacing and the timing. Asterix sets it up in the first panel on this last tier of the page, narrating what's happening. Our Druid is waking up. He's strong. This is all set up for the reversal that's about to come in the final panel. Then Asterix asks him how he's feeling. We've talked a lot about the language of comics, and here's another example of that. You see those bubbles over Getafix's head, and you know what that means. You know it means he's a little wobbly, but it's okay. He's just waking up after, again, being hit in the head with a menhir, or a menhir, or a menhir, however you want to pronounce it. I'm sticking with menhir. Those bubbles can also indicate drunkenness, and we saw plenty of that with a certain Vercingetorix-obsessed prisoner in Asterix and the Golden Sickle, the second book in the series. Those bubbles were mostly around his red nose, though. So that helps show off that it's a little more about drunkenness than just sort of mental wobbliness. There's no better way to tell in a comic book when a character is drunk than his nose being red and all. For the final twist on the page, Getafix has lost his mind, or has temporary amnesia, which again sounds like a soap opera plot, but he doesn't recognize Asterix. I can point to about 35 million French folks who would recognize Asterix after being hit with the menhir. Getafix obviously has a problem, and it's going to cause a chain reaction of events that define the rest of the book. You can, in your mind, just picture the various battles are going to happen, near misses, misunderstandings, fights that are all going to come out because of this moment. The Druid is still there, he's just not mentally there, and that causes a problem, but it could be used for the villagers if things work out well. Spoiler, they don't work out well. Of course not. This wouldn't be a book if it did. This is only page 8 of 44 in total, folks, so sit back and enjoy the ride. The Druid Getafix has a running joke that makes him laugh and laugh and laugh. It's the first full page set in the village of the book, and if I don't lose my nerve, the moment where I get maybe just a touch what some might call political in discussing the differences between a comic from the 1960s and an animated TV show from 2025. For reviews of every Asterix book, check out the Asterix agenda over at pipelinecomics.com or click on these suggested videos for more about the glory of Asterix. Like and subscribe today so you don't miss the next one.